This is a true story from the African Grassfields village of Bambili. Just over 150 years ago, in the village of Bambili, there was a tribal chief called Ifuu who ruled over the people with the power of an absolute monarch. He was a heartless king. He was wary of anyone who posed a threat to his power. He killed many champion wrestlers. He assassinated army generals who proved great bravery in war. He did not let twins live because culture dictated that they be treated with reverence, and not bow to the king if they wished. His favorite method of execution of his enemies was to get a masquerade called Minang to lead the unfortunate victim to the crest of a waterfall and push the person over. Ifuoku's word was law, and no one dared to disobey it. The main occupations of Ifuoku's subjects was farming and hunting. At the time the events narrated here occurred, there had been a famine in the year before. Ifuoku, in his autocratic wisdom, decreed that no harvest should be gathered until blessed by the rituals of the palace, a tradition believed to ensure bountiful yields and avert famine. In those days, there was a young and enterprising farmer called Ashar Tangui. He was married and had 2 children. He owned a big corn farm up in Tar, the hilly part of the village. The area was in the fringes of the village, close to forests where wild animals dwelled in large numbers. Every day, Ashar Tangui would go to his farm and keep watch over the crops. His greatest fear was of marauding monkeys which came in large numbers and knew how to steal whole cobs and escape into the trees with them. One day, Ashar Tangui came to his farm early in the morning and found the maize was nearly ready. He would have liked to make a fire and roast a cob for himself in the farm hut, but then, he dared not, as someone could find him out and tell on him, spelling doom for him. He was keeping watch on one side of his farm, and did not know that on the other side, monkeys were busy harvesting his crops. When he did a round of the farm, he discovered to his horror that the monkeys had stolen a lot of his crop. One of the monkeys was still trailing behind and he chased it. As it pranced away, a cob of maize fell out of its hand. Ashar Tangui was mad at the monkeys. For the rest of the day he managed to keep them away by racing around the farm continually. When night came, he picked the fallen maize and took it home. His wife was still preparing the evening meal in her kitchen. He made a fire and put the corn to roast. As it's usually the case with maize that's not fully ready, the grains popped loudly. He had not anticipated this. He ate the soft grains and drank a cup of palm wine. His wife brought his evening meal eventually, and he ate and went to bed. The following morning, he woke up to a loud knock at his door. When he saw the masquerades whose job it was to keep discipline in the village, he knew he was in big trouble. These masquerades were called Awanibo. Their job was to spy on villagers and pick out anyone who broke the law. Awanibo seized Ashar Tangui and bore him away to Ifuo's den. Ifuo judged those suspected of breaking the law and Minang was its executioner. Ashanga Tanke'e was told he had broken the law regarding crop harvest. When he protested his innocence, he was told sounds of popping corn had been heard coming from his house in the night. Awanibo had smelled roasted corn in his hut. Did he plead guilty or not guilty? Ashanga Tanke'e explained how he had picked the corn left behind by a thieving monkey and that he had considered it a waste to let it rot in the furrows of his farm. Ifuo found him guilty, stating that Ifuoku required that no one brings home the harvest and eat it before the crops have been blessed and the harvest season declared open. His punishment was death at the Apfokui. There was no appeal at Ifuo's court. Minang was called in to execute the sentence immediately. The execution team set out in a file. In front was a masquerade called Muobu. This was a less feared masquerade whose duty was to announce to people well before the time that Minang or Ifuo was approaching. In the case of Minang, people just had to give way by stepping into the roadside bushes. They also had time to hide their calabashes of palm wine, for Minang never saw wine go by without seizing it. In the case of Ifuo, women, children, and non-initiates fled as nimbly as they could. It was a pathetic sight that morning to see Ashanga Tanke'e being led to his death. People watched in silent fear as he walked in the middle of a file, followed by Minang, behind whom were Minang's servants, a number of men who carried plantains, kola nuts, and calabashes of palm wine, being Minang's loot from passers-by that morning. No onlooker dared to weep aloud over Ashar Tangui's fate, lest they be seen as sympathizing with a miscreant. Ashanga Tanke'e was the only person bewailing his own fate, and in the custom of the time, was singing a dirge. When the procession reached the precipice, Minang, the silent harbinger of death, seized Ashar in its cold embrace, and cast him into the churning waters below. Neither Minang nor his slaves bothered to check downstream if he survived the fall, as no one had ever been known to come out of Apfokwi alive. Only the boldest of villagers watched the execution, hidden inside the lush vegetation around the waterfall. Even as he vanished into the mist and spray, the memory of Ashar Tangui lingered on, a symbol of resilience and defiance in the face of tyranny. And in the days that followed, as the village stirred with the rhythms of harvest season, whispers of his name echoed through the fields, paying tribute to a life unjustly taken and a spirit that refused to be extinguished. Up till this day, the story of Ashar Tangui is told during fireside storytime, and many tears are shed when his last words are sung as follows.
Oh, I'm doomed today. Oh, my end is here. Oh, I'm doomed today. Oh, my end is here. One cup of corn left on the ground as monkeys fled. Oh, I'm doomed today. Oh, my end is here. Oh, I'm doomed today. Oh, my end is here. My good neighbor, take care of mine, wife and kids, my property, and take care of my funeral. Oh, I'm doomed today. Oh, my end is here. Oh, I'm doomed today. Oh, my end is here. Ashanga Tanke'e, ngamumbualo, oh, mumbualo. Oh, ngamumbualo, oh, mumbualo, oh, ngamumbualo, ngashang mo, mankomye, ngamumyen tuom fela, oh, ngamumbualo, oh, ngamumbualo, oh, mumbualo, oh, ngamumbualo, oh, ngamumbualo. Oh, mbualo tambo wa kebwo ba kemanga wa enkebiya lona vuya ngambualo oh mbualo oh mbualo oh ngambualo ngashang mo Mankome, ngamambien tuom fela, oh, ngamambualo, oh, mambualo, oh, ngamambualo, oh, ngamambualo, oh, mambualo, oh, ngamambualo, oh, mambualo, tamboa, kebwoba, Kemanga wa enkebiya lona vuya ngamambualo oh mambualo oh mambualo oh ngamambualo ngashang mo mankome